good morning, everyone. I really appreciate you joining, especially with the time change. I appreciate the flexibility, but I also just appreciate the collaboration. I do have questions later too from the group that want to go out to everyone. They're not here, so we'll just collect answers and then we will share it afterwards. But first, I would like to welcome two guests. We have Henry Dunkerson from ADE. He has been working with the rural schools, single site LEAs for several years now. I know that you are sort of a liaison between the small schools and ADE. So if you have any rural or small school questions, I would recommend going to Henry first. And Henry is who I reached out to help today. And he brought along Carrie Scheidel. Am I saying that correctly? Okay, perfect. And Carrie Scheidel is the Title IV Safe, Healthy, and Active Student Specialist for the Arizona Department of Education. She also, or her role involves ensuring that every student has access to a safe, healthy, active, and supportive learning environment. She also provides leadership on the USDA child nutrition programs. I'm putting that in there because there might be questions or people might have questions about the child nutrition programs. I know that is a lot of paperwork in rural schools and probably all schools everywhere. And she also is the CDC or with the CDC's Comprehensive School Physical Activity Program. And you have served as a Shape America State and District Leader, Special Interest Group Co-Chair, and the past President of Arizona Health and Physical Education. So we have a lot of expertise there. And I am going to let Carrie share her screen. And she is going to be talking to us today about Title IV, about all the different uses of Title IV, but then also how to combine it with the Title I or Title II funding, whichever option might best meet your district's needs. So Carrie, if you want to take it away.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Let me see. I don't use Google Meets options very often.
Down at the bottom, there's a rectangle.
Oh, I see it.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. You guys can see that?
Not yet.
Not yet, Carrie.
There we go.
There we go.
We can see it.
All right. Perfect. Perfect. Sorry, all these things are popping up on all the screens. All right. So this is just an overview, a quick overview of what Title IV is in hopes that we can get some more support for your single site LEAs on how to spend their money. Because, we definitely want you guys utilizing your funds, and there's some really cool things that we can fund with Title IV. So I'll try to go through this quickly, but not too quickly. All right. So basically, in federal statute, ESEA, Title IV has got 3 program areas that we really oversee. We oversee well-rounded education and ensuring that all of our students, regardless of what school they're in the state, have access to a well-rounded education. There are 18 subject areas defined in well-rounded education. We'll get into them a little bit more in a couple minutes, but that's the gist of well-rounded education. And then safe and healthy students, which is to improve school conditions for student learning. And then the last one we have is the effective use of technology. And that really is working to get our school leaders to understand how to implement technology in an effective way to increase student achievement. So those 3 areas, well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, and the effective use of technology are the bread and butter of the Title IV grant. I do want to say that if you guys probably know this, but just in case you don't, if your LEA gets Title I, you automatically get Title IV. So if you have an approved FY24 Title I application, you automatically should receive Title IV funding for your schools. So well-rounded education is a pretty broad, like I said, there's 18 subject areas that are included in well-rounded education. STEM and STEAM, world and native language, arts education, health and PE, gifted and accelerated learning, civics, geography, economics, really kind of whatever you need at your LEA is really what well-rounded lives in. We're also looking at things like environmental education, college and career counseling, cross-disciplinary learning, including what you do with physical activity and health or arts integration or implementing arts into your STEM program, which is a STEAM program. We can also help fund AP/IB test scores, coding classes, robotics, online learning for all subject areas. Just a couple of examples. I have a really big example at the end of this presentation, but a couple of things that we do that are outside of the box. We do have an LEA here in Arizona that funds an environmental education program at their high school, and the high school kids actually measure the carbon footprint that the district's making. And then we also fund a circus program. So we have an LEA here in Arizona that funds a circus program, and they tie it to their STEM STEAM program and incorporating those things. It's got a curriculum, it's got assessment, it's got all the things. So we're really looking at like going outside the box a little from your traditional like math and language arts. And then safe and healthy students. That one is predominantly anything you can think of that handles with a student's safety or their health, right? So we're talking the full gamut of physical safety, physical health to mental safety, mental health, right? Counseling and mental health services, health and wellness programs, including staff wellness programs. A lot of times our LEAs want to fund staff wellness and don't know where to find that money. You can find it. You can use Title IV-A for that. Family and community engagement, positive behavior intervention strategies, trauma-informed school practices, school health services, which is nursing, health and PE, physical activity, dropout prevention. So there is a guide that helps with safe and healthy students called the Safe and Healthy Students Federal Funding Guide. If you Googled that, it should come up right away because it's the only one of its kind in the country. Basically, I took the components of safe and healthy students and lined it up with Title I, Title II, and Title IV-A so that you could see what you can pay for out of each of those funds. So I'll be happy to share that with Kristin when this is all over so that you guys don't have to search too hard to find it, but it should come up if you did a Google search. It's a pretty useful document, not just for safe and healthy, but some of the other program areas that are incorporated in Title IV-A. And then the last component of our grant is the effective use of technology, which we're talking about interactive learning resources, access to online databases and other primary source documents, personalized learning, hybrid or blended learning, online courses for students. And so this one, again, the main focus of the effective use of technology section is for professional development for teachers and staff, but it also has these components in it as well. So again, PD for staff, we're also looking at some assisted learning devices as long as supplement, not supplant, isn't a concern with your IDEA grants for your exceptional students, then it should be fine. And then also support for students and parents on how to use maybe some of the online systems that you have working in your district and you'd like to train parents or students on how to use them more effectively. You could use effective use of technology funds for that as well. We do have a few special rules that it's important to mention. So the great thing about Title IV-A is that if your LEA is receiving Title I funds and you have that Title I grant from the year before that's director approved, you're going to get a minimum allocation of $10,000. So Congress wrote that in that every LEA would get a minimum amount of $10,000 in their Title IV allocation. So we do have a few LEAs in Arizona that actually have more in Title IV-A than they do in Title I because of that minimum amount. We also have, do we have anybody here? Probably not. Most of our LEAs that are more rural and single site don't have a $30,000 allocation or more. But if you do, you have to spend a minimum of 20% in well-rounded, a minimum of 20% in safe and healthy, and then at least one line item for the effective use of technology. So there is that rule if you do have over $30,000 in your allocation. And then the last rule that we have is if you are going to utilize your funds for the effective use of technology, only 15% of those funds can be spent on devices, right? So you have to have, so if you spent $100 on PD, right, you'd be able to spend $15 on a device. If you spent $1,000, right, et cetera, you're only allowed to use like 15% of those funds for devices. It is really intended for blended learning and PD, not just Chromebooks for kids. So that's that 15% rule. Basically, infrastructure is that little tiny sliver. It's any hardware, software, devices. So if you're looking to do that with your Title IV-A grant, it's probably better to do it with your Title I grant and to fund devices out of those other grants, because you're not going to be able to fund them with your Title IV-A grant unless you have a really big grant and you're spending a lot on effective use of technology professional development. So there are categories where you can use all three. So we have some LEAs that do things like district level training. So they'll pay for a PD specialist at the district level that does some well-rounded, some safe and healthy, and some EUT. And they use all three categories to identify that. Sometimes the school counselor is well-rounded. Sometimes the school counselor is safe and healthy. Depends on what the counselor is doing. But the point is these funds are very flexible. You can also braid with Title I, Title II. So let's say you're doing a PBIS program or MTSS program in Title I, and it's not being fully funded, and you wanted to support it with Title IV-A funds. Instead of transferring your full Title IV-A allocation, you can just use that portion of your Title IV-A funds to help support that you're funding with the Title I, and there is no supplement, not supplant, because it's federal to federal. So it's really not a concern when it comes to, braiding or split funding with any of your federal programs. All right, so this is the LEA that I wanted to highlight. We have a spotlight. So this LEA purchased seeds and dirt and wood, and they built a school garden. And then they took those seeds and they harvested them, and they met with one of the tribal leaders in their area that taught them how to they grew gourds. The tribal leader taught them how to take the gourds and turn them into musical instruments. And so they turned them into musical instruments, and then they let the students paint them so that they were each unique to that student. And then they put on a performance for families in the area. Right. And so that's the kind of thing you can do with Title IV-A money. You can have a garden as long as you don't pay for the construction, right? So you can build it all yourself or have the kids build it, grow gourds, turn them into music instruments, and put on a display for your family and community engagement events, right? So all of those things were funded with Title IV-A. Every part of this program was funded by Title IV-A. And so it's kind of like thinking outside the box. Again, a circus program. Things that are connecting students to their culture. I know that that's really important in your rural areas, because sometimes our rural areas, like the culture is a lot more prevalent than what is in some of our urban schools. So I think it's pretty important to recognize that you can help fund these things with Title IV-A so that you can increase the culture in your area. There are some tribes that are in danger of losing their native language and their native tongue. And so you can fund parent education or student education in those areas or in those cultural areas to support those things not getting lost due to people no longer having that knowledge or information. So those are the kind of things you can do with Title IV-A. We have a whole list of resources. Again, I will share this with Kristin, so no worries about writing this stuff down. But that's my information. If you ever want to email me, or if you have any questions, I'm also happy to take any questions that you guys might have.
All right. It is open to questions. If anyone wants to type a question into the box, or just take yourself off mute and feel free to ask.
This Angela from Cannon Elementary in Blackhaven City. Hi. I think the hardest part about Title IV for my school and all small schools is getting the staff to want to do do the things under those blankets. I just don't have the staff. And so oftentimes with Title IV, I'm like, well, what do I do with this money? And every year I have to tell Title IV and Title I, hey, I'm just going to transfer it to Title I because I want to pay for all day kindergarten. And that's what I use it for. I do not, my staff is burnt out. I only got 8 teachers, and using that Title IV for clubs and those kind of things sounds wonderful, but I am also at a point where my staff is done. They're just done. So if anyone has ideas for that, let me know.
Well, I just, I would have maybe approach them with what would they like to do, right? Like what are the things? So this is kind of a weird thing. We call ourselves the dream team, not because we're awesome, but because, you can do the programs your school's been dreaming of doing forever. Right. And so maybe if there's a wish list, right, we can also fund supplies, right, as long as you're not supplanting, right? So let's say your art teacher wants to start a new ceramics program, or, it can be outside the box things. It can be after school. It can be before school. It can be during the summer, right? So some of the areas maybe, and it might be best for your LEA to transfer your funds, right? You guys know your needs better than the State Department of Ed does. And we respect that, right? We're not on here saying oh, you should all use your Title IV funds. The only problem we have and what we worry about is if all of our LEAs transfer their Title IV funds, it sends a message to the Federal Department of Ed that those funds aren't needed, right? And there are LEAs that do some really amazing things, and we would hate to lose those programs. But again, if that's what the needs are at your LEA, then that's perfectly supported here at ADE if that's, what you need to do with your funds. Because we recognize that our rural schools, they have different needs than a lot of our urban schools. Again, just mindful of the minimum you get now for Title IV is $10,000. If Title IV goes away, you'll get a lot less because they'll just throw it into Title I and it won't be distributed quite the same. So just keep that in mind.
I'd like to add too. I'm just going to add, I love the idea of Title IV and all of the creative uses. I'm going to just be honest here for a moment. As the grant writer for the district, I just transfer it to Title I so that I don't have to write another grant. I'm just going to send it to Title I and Title II so I don't have to write it, because it's just more monitoring. It's more back and forth. It's more rejection. It's more in the LIAP. It's more all those things. And so just in the essence of saving time, I transfer, even though we're doing Title IV type activities at our campus, it's just, it's a lot of work to write a grant, and all the grant people here know that it is. So
yeah, no, we definitely understand that as well. Title IV isn't necessarily in the SIAP and LIAP anymore, because we recognize that was an extra burden. Obviously, when we got rid of the tagging, that was one of the main reasons why, is because it was just unbelievably burdensome. It is an extra application to fill out, right? And we understand that. But we're also patient. And if you wanted to start filling that application out, we're certainly happy to help you navigate the ins and outs of it. So
I think it's really helpful for us to know that if we all keep transferring our Title IV funds to Title I, that it might go away. That is more of a group motivation to maybe to fill it out. Stephanie, you have your hand up. You have a question?
I do. Hello, everybody. And I am in the car, so I apologize for that. But I did want to share that I love Title IV. I love working with Carrie. So I'm just going to say, Carrie's great. And if you ever want to call and brainstorm through stuff, I love just her commitment. And she has stayed at ABE a long time. But I do want to say this. We put ours towards counseling services. And it is contracted services. It pays for additional hours through YCESA that we contract counselors to come down and work with our kids. And that's pretty easy paperwork. So I did want to just throw that idea out there.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate your support. I love working with Stephanie too. Congress is one of my favorite Will grants. We love our smaller LEAs, right? We know we have an ability to make a big impact in a little area. So glad to hear that. And yeah, it's one line item. right? We have a lot of our single site LEAs write one line item, right? One program narrative question, check the boxes, do the things, because you don't have the requirements that the over 30,000 LEAs have, where they have to split it up with that 2020 portion rule. You could literally fund it all, right, in one thing. So
that is good to know. And we can transfer that Title IV at any time throughout the year, right? In any grant revision.
So the way it works, it depends, right? Once you transfer Title IV-A into Title I and your grant gets director approved, it is permanently locked into Title I and it loses its Title IV-A-ness, essentially, right? It just becomes part of Title I. Title II and Title IV, you can transfer back and forth to each other throughout the whole grant revision process, and it doesn't matter. But once money goes into Title I, it's locked and it's in there forever. And it can't come back out. And that's true for Title II as well. It's like a vacuum, right? You can't unvacuum it.
So I'm very, very good to know about the Title I. You said you could transfer it back and forth between Title II, but then you said same with Title II. So I'm confused. Is Title II locked up once it's direct? Like
no. So once either Title II or Title IV-A get transferred into Title I and that grant gets director approved, you can never come out.
Got you. If Title II is transferred to Title I.
Yep.
Okay, Stephanie?
I did get excited there. I was like, can I take Title II funds if I don't use them and put them in Title IV?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yep, you absolutely can.
All right, I'm curious. I love that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. We also have an LEA or two that run school-wide 3. And then those grants are pretty complicated to write for small LEAs because it's like everything becomes like one big pot of money and it goes throughout the. So we'll see like janitor services in Title IV, which isn't typically something that we see, but we do have some LEAs that do that. I just think that creates quite a bit of like process burden on smaller LEAs.
Are there how many Title IV specialists are at ADE? If we are writing the Title IV, is it going to go to you or is it going to go to a new person who doesn't follow the same rules? And I'm saying that nicely, but we've all dealt with, Title I saying this is okay, this is what you have to do. And then IDEA saying, no, this is how you do it. And they kind of cancel each other out sometimes. So
yeah, no, great question. We're working on that, by the way, as an agency to try to help some of that because that's the last thing we want to do. But there's 6 grant reviewers on the Title IV-A team. We have 3 that just do Title IV-A grant review, and they each have they have like 110 LEAs that they oversee. And then there's 3 of us that are specialists in, we do certain things. So our arts education specialist has a grant caseload of about 60 LEAs. I'm the safe, healthy, and active student specialist. I have 60 LEAs. And our effective use of technology specialist also has about 60 LEAs. And then we also, new to our team, we have a gifted education specialist. And she doesn't do grant review, but if you guys have any questions for gifted, she's doing like amazing work with the Gifted Education Task Force. There's a lot of cool, really resources and programs coming out that are free to your LEAs. So I do encourage you to connect with her. Her name's Catherine Oliver if you're looking at ADE emails at all, but we've got a gifted education page and her information's on her. So
is there any additional monitoring for Title IV beyond? Okay.
Yeah. So we just this year separated.
Okay.
So we went to a federal meeting earlier this year and found out that we weren't technically monitoring the Title IV-A aspects of the grant that we need to do. So it has its own monitoring. Let me tell you what triggers a monitoring for Title IV-A. If you are an over 30,000 LEA and you don't meet the 2020 portion rule, it triggers a monitoring. If your LEA transfers your Title IV-A funds, it will trigger a monitoring for next year. It's not going to be this year, but next year, transfers are going to get added to that. And then the third one is if your LEA is not meeting like grant deadlines for submitting things. So if your LEA is tardy in getting your grants and processes submitted, it will trigger a Title IV monitoring. So if you are transferring every year, you can expect to probably get a monitoring visit next year from us, just because the federal government is asking us to monitor transfer LEA. So it's been there in statute for a while. We just hadn't been enforcing it due to lack of knowledge, quite frankly. But once we got that update, that will be something that's happening for fiscal year 25's monitoring.
So I'm going to ask a clarifying question for that too. So if we transferred our Title IV funds already this year, we're going to be monitored next year?
Possibly, yes. Well, I don't know for sure. We haven't determined if it's all transfers or some transfers. That has yet to be determined. It's a new process for us as well in Title IV, so that is yet to be determined. But what that would look like is probably just a conversation like we're having right now about what the burdens are of the LEA, why they're transferring, who's involved in that decision, because you are required to have the diverse stakeholder group involved in making that decision. So it's things like that. It's not meant to be negative or punishing in any way. It's just more us gathering information about why LEAs are transferring. And so when the feds ask us, we can say, well, our LEAs are transferring because X, Y, and Z. They are involving all their stakeholders, or no, they can't find stakeholders, whatever the case may be.
Good information. New information to me. I don't know if that was new information to everybody else.
It's probably new to everybody because it's a new process. This is the first year we haven't done cycle monitoring with Title I, but it's because we have different needs. So we have to monitor LEAs. We can't just do a cycle. We have to monitor LEAs who are immediate in those needs that we have to cover in our federal reporting for the U.S. Ed. So thanks for your patience with us as we navigate this new process.
All right. Are there any other questions for Carrie or Henry while we have them here? What I'm going to do, and I'm going to have Carrie and Henry just stay on a moment. I made a list of reminders for everyone, but then if I'm forgetting, I think you two might be some great people that might think of something else. I made a list of reminders just to let everybody know that our public file is going to be posted on SBE's website by Friday for the A through F letter grade. So those are the scores. And then the public release by ADE is supposed to happen November 1st or by November 1st. So make sure that you are prepared for any communications you might need to share with your stakeholders. In EMAC, you should have submitted your equitable services, timeline, procedures, consultation, etc., and the neglected or delinquent monitoring instrument pieces. But the monitoring is still not listed yet. And as far as I've seen, there's no training yet for the monitoring. I see the head nodding. So still nothing for the cycle monitoring for EMAC. Shanna, do you have a question? You're muted still?
I interacted yesterday with my person, Nicole, I guess was her name. And I asked something about EMAC training and she didn't know what I was talking about. I don't know that there's going to be any EMAC training. So I don't know. I'm kind of confused about that. So what is this EMAC training that we're supposed to be participating? I remember hearing about it, but then nothing else has been said. And she's like, no, just keep doing your stuff in EMAC as it comes up. I don't know.
So we're in the process of changing the monitoring as it existed in the past. It's gone from 6 cycle monitorings to 4, and they've spread out what was in 4. They've tried to find identifying pieces through all 6 and narrow that down to 4. and try to balance them all out. So that process is currently happening. So that's why it's taken a while to open EMAC, because cycle monitoring itself is going through restructuring, I guess would be the best word to use for that. So you should have gotten an email. If you haven't, let me know, describing the first steps of that. And then there should be an email coming out. My understanding was that by the end of the day today, you should be getting some additional information as to what cycle you're going to be in now. So it will be one of 4 that you will be in. So once that has been determined, then they should be opening up EMAC so that then you can upload documents for whatever cycle that you're going to be in. Carrie, anything else that you want to add to that?
No, so unfortunately, Title I and Title IV are in different divisions at ADE. So even though we're a consolidated application, we have different associate superintendents and deputy associate superintendents. So we aren't always privy to all of the information. So I would just say, look, just watch out for your emails and guidance that might be uploading into EMAC. I know the Title IV monitoring process has started, but it doesn't require a training, and it's separate from Title I. So I don't have much else to add. Sorry, Henry.
It's okay.
So if we were in cycle 3 last year and we were believing that we were going to get cycle 4 this year, that's out the window. We have no idea what we're getting this year.
Yeah, so I really don't know how they're going to break it up. I was in a meeting just this morning, and that still has to be determined as to which cycle that you're going to be in. But what you should see now is some consistent threads running through all 4 cycles. So like family and community engagement, you're going to see a thread through all 4. So you're going to see some consistent threads that will always be part of the monitoring for each of them, no matter which cycle that you're in.
Cool. Any other questions about monitoring that they may or may not be able to answer? Okay. I'm glad you stayed on the call. So this is good. Thank you. I just wanted to give a reminder too that the high cost child application, the first one is due on Friday. So if you are submitting for that, please make sure you get everything ready and submitted by Friday. I think that is all of the reminders I have about items that are coming up. Henry or Carrie, can you think of anything?
The only thing I can do is give a friendly reminder that we do have completion reports happening. So I'm not sure where you guys are in that process, but I've had a few LEAs who already have carryover in their FY25 grants. So that means they've already got them finalized by GME. So if you haven't started your completion report yet, that would be a pretty good time.
That's a great reminder as well.
And I would recommend, if you've already received director approval on your 25 grant, to start doing drawdowns. That's another place that the federal government is looking at whether our schools are drawing down funds. Another reason for cutting Title I funds is because our LEAs are not drawing down those funds and utilizing those funds throughout the year. So that's something else that's being monitored at the federal level. So I would just encourage you to get your business managers on a regular schedule of drawing down, especially if you have salaries in your grant. They should be doing regular drawdowns from your 25 grant as well.
Also very helpful. They'd like you to do them at least monthly, correct? Yep.
Correct. Yep.
We got an email a while back. Are we going to be getting more Title I money? That like some of the money was released, or what is that all about?
So we did get the waiver, and that remains to be seen how much is going to go, but that is in works since we did get the waiver from the federal government. So that's the possibility coming in the near future. Yes. We should have information rolling out on that. I don't know that every district is going to see a bump, but I would certainly hope that, but I don't know that that's going to be for sure. Carrie, any additional that you have on that?
Well, no, I don't have any additional information, but we also have final allocations that might be dropping in. I know most of the time it doesn't affect the $10,000, but I know 2019, 2020, it was like $1.37. So everybody had to go in and do their entire grant all over again. And we were really, we're sorry that happened, but also it's more impactful, obviously, for our larger LEAs because they get more than $1. So if that does happen, just, be mindful that if final allocations change to, if you have transferred already, to go in and transfer that remaining amount so that we don't have to drop it. You have a remaining balance comment in the history log. So
I'm going to also just quick add a helpful tip for grants that I learned last year. And I've been doing this a very, very long time, but I only learned this last year and it was so helpful. When you submit a grant and it gets kicked back to you and you can't remember what was before that, there's that drop down menu for the last approved so that you can kind of revert it back to the last one that was approved. And then you can kind of re-edit from there, which was so helpful because they were like, no, you can't do this. And I didn't know how to get it back. So there is a last approved section in the grants if you need to go back to your last approved grant, which was helpful. And then I do have a question, and I'll ask if Title IV-A funds can be used for it as well. But we have a member who is looking at getting some international teachers on J-1 visas. And her business manager told her that she can't use any public funds to pay for the fees for the J-1 visa. And I don't know if that's the case. We have paid for them and we've been audited and they never said anything. So I wasn't aware of that. If we're allowed to use public funds to pay for the fee for the J-1 visa, or if we are not allowed.
Yeah, I have seen it in grants, but I don't know what the real answer is on that. Carrie, do you?
No, I don't know either. And we don't see those typically in Title IV-A. That doesn't mean they're not allowable. We would just have to reach out to our program specialist at the Federal Department of Ed to figure out if that's an allowable expense or not.
It might help with their mental health to have that paid for.
Staff wellness.
Yes. Yeah. Anybody else have J-1 visa teachers, and are the teachers paying all those fees themselves, or is your district helping out in any way? I'd love to hear what others are doing.
Yes, we have a ton of them, and we actually have not had to pay anything. The Amity is the organization that I use, and the teacher pretty much pays for it there. We are trying to transition to the H-1 visa, which there would be fees that would be incurred. It's just a better deal for them. They've really asked me to do it, but there's a couple of requirements I don't know if we can meet. But ultimately it's a better situation for them, and they can stay longer, and it's almost like a green card for them. So anyway, yep.
And who runs that, or what vendor type?
It's called Amity.
Amity?
Yeah, AMITY. Amity. Yeah. And they've been great with me. And then I have a liaison. And it's really neat because, and I'm sure you guys run the same problem, it's not problem, it's a good problem, is actually I did not use a single one of their recommendations. They'll send you the recommendations and they have it all over. But I went after people that are most of our Filipinos that contacted me directly, and I interviewed them and I really liked them. And I just thought, hey, look, these guys are contacting me directly. They were really timely in the responses. And so I didn't hire a single one of them, but they got them on board with them, and we got them here all on time. So it was amazing. But obviously we started that process way back in March. So, but yeah, they do a really good job, and they were they've actually called and checked on the 4 new ones that we hired. So
that's great. And I know there's the legal requirement that you can't offer contracts before March 15th now.
Yep.
Is that going to impact the timeline for, nope.
I don't think so. I can look back, but I think the soonest we offered was, I want to say right at the beginning of April. But I was on it right away because I'm new to this district. Last year I came, we had one that didn't come until like the end of September. And she was with another organization, I'll be honest with you. And the others were on time. Oh, no, one other was late, but she was only, I think 2 weeks late. So it wasn't too bad. But like I said, we got them all here for new teacher induction, which was in July. So I don't think you can wait until, I think the last one we hired was which was our elementary teacher. I want to say we hired in late March, early April, and we still got her here. So, all right. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Rusty. Yes, thank you so much.
No problem.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Wanda Burton from Seligman, and we also use Amity. It helps when you have a contact for that person that's been through the process before. Amity works well with connecting them to fingerprint clearance cards and all of that stuff that they can do beforehand. The only thing they can't do until they get here is their ADE certificate, but they can have their transcript evaluated before they get here. And then they have to get their social security card once they get a post office box or mailing address for their residence here. We also have a couple J1s that are switching over to H1 visas. I'm new to this district as of July 1st. And in the past, this district paid those fees for them. But now we are not paying those fees for them. But they do go through our same immigration lawyer for the district so that he has information from the district and he can work with them one-on-one. But they pay him for those fees, not us.
But I have a question for you. As far as you know, if the district wants to pay as like a benefit, like an employee benefit, is there any legal reason that's not allowable as far as you know, not holding into it?
You have a board policy for fringe benefits. And so just have that fringe benefit board approved for that staff member.
That's great. Thank you, Wanda.
You're welcome.
I'm writing that down. I have to follow up with her later. So I'm writing down all the information. Thank you so much for sharing that information. The last thing that I want to say, and then I'll open it up if anybody else has anything for the good of our group. But next month in November, our collaborative group is going to be going over school board relations, the school board policies, timelines, requirements, and just best practices. So that is going to be that fourth week of November. And we are going to change the date of the December meeting because everyone will probably be on break. And I think it's an important meeting. And if we want to just cancel December and move to January, we can talk about it then at the November meeting. But is there anything else for the good of the order? Not really in order, but I'm asking. Shanna, did you raise your hand? Nope. All right. Thank you, Henry. Henry has put his email in the chat box, and I'm going to wait and let Carrie put hers in there as well. And anyone who needs their emails can copy, paste, and save it for later. I want to thank both of you again for being here. We really appreciate it. We might ask you to join again, especially as the rural liaison, Henry. That would be really helpful for us. And I will see all the rest of you next month.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.